Well said. You don't have to be great to start, but you need to start to be great. Placement is a dream for every college student. Some people come with their responsibilities and some with their dreams.
It's fine. No one comes to college with all the information. So it's fine even in terms of societies if you're applying to say 15 of them, right? Because you don't know where.
When you come to extracurricular activities, you need to prioritize a lot. I've seen that a lot of students are a part of 10 societies, are trying to do every competition that comes their way, etc., etc. So over here you need to ensure that you're only participating in those events, only undertaking those societies where you're actually interested.
Greetings of the day to one and all. I am a great believer in luck, and I find the harder I work, the more I have of it. With this, I, Muskan Agrawal, and my co-host Jayani welcome you all on behalf of Wings of Fire, Shriram College of Commerce, to an enriching session of Mann Ki Baat Seniors ke Saath. It's well said. You don't have to be great to start, but you need to start to be great. Placement is a dream for every college student. Some people come with their responsibilities and some with their dreams. And we are willing to take every step possible to achieve our dreams. And we would like to congratulate you all for being one step closer towards your dreams. We ensured that this session would bring a plethora of guidance for you all.
We are honored to have among us two professionals who have not only aced the placements but are also incoming business associates at McKinsey. Besides being third-year eco-honors students of SRCC, both of them have three things in common: a stellar and consistent academic record, excellent extracurricular experience, and at the same time, an enviable work experience with leadership roles in reputed societies. Our first guest of honor today is Parth Chowdhary. He is the recipient of the Kanwar Lal Memorial Scholarship, Shri G. L. Bansal Gold Medal, and winner of several debating and consulting competitions organized by IIM Ahmedabad, IIM Calcutta, London School of Economics, IIT Delhi, and even the National Stock Exchange of India. He scored a whopping 770 in GMAT and 99.9 percentile in CAT. During his tenure as the President of Economic Society of SRCC, he instituted Professor Jagdish Bhagwati Research Scholarship, conceptualized and established Data Lab, and was personally recognized by the Nobel laureate Dr. Paul Milgrom. He is a member of Mensa International and was one out of 14 undergraduate interns to be selected for the Cards Business Unit of City. His articles have been published in the annual economic and foreign policy journals of SRCC, LSR, and the Oxford Political Review. His list of achievements is literally endless.
Our next guest for today is Jayani Shah. Besides her academic performance, she was an active member of 180 DC Business Conclave and Enactus. She is presently a member of Advisory Board of Enactus SRCC. And during her tenure as Research Director and team member of Enactus, she made invaluable contributions to their 4 projects in wash, craft, and waste management sectors. She was even selected as a financial research intern at DE Shaw. Both Parth and Jayani were a part of the team that emerged as the global champions of HSBC HQ Asia Pacific Business Case Competition, and they were the first Indian team in 14 years to not only reach but also win the global finals of this prestigious competition.
On behalf of the entire team of Wings of Fire, I thank you both for gracing today's session of Mann Ki Baat Seniors ke Saath with your august virtual presence and sparing your precious time to share nuggets of wisdom. Without further ado, I would like to ask first question which has boggled many of us. Both of you have maintained a stellar academic record and were actively involved in extracurricular activities throughout your school and college life. What advice would you give to students who have just entered college and are facing difficulty in managing both? Also, what advice would you give to a student who has just started learning about consulting?
Sure. So I can take that up, and then Parth, I think you can also add on. So I think one basic approach that you should follow is balance, right? Balance is necessary in everything that you do. So similarly over here, you need to maintain a balance between both your acads as well as extracurricular. I think the advice I can give is when you come to extracurricular activities, you need to prioritize a lot. I've seen that a lot of students are a part of 10 societies, are trying to do every competition that comes their way, etc., etc. So over here you need to ensure that you're only participating in those events, only undertaking those societies where you're actually interested and you think you can contribute the most. So once you prioritize and come down to a selected list of activities that you're wanting to do, then I think you will be able to balance both your academics as well as your extracurricular activities, right? And when it comes to acads, I think one very important factor is that you need to attend classes. Number one, you need to regularly be updated with whatever curriculum is being completed in your classes, as well as prepare rigorously right before your exams. So I think that is how you can maintain a balance between the two. But most important factor is priority and prioritizing your tasks. Parth, would you like to add on something?
Thank you, Jayani. So, just to expand on that, right? So, when you're talking of that idea of prioritization, at the starting, a lot of us are unaware in terms of how to decide it, and that's fine. No one comes to college with all the information. So, it's fine even in terms of societies if you're applying to, say, 15 of them, right? Because you don't know where you'll get in. But the idea is that once you are in, say, maybe five or six of them, and then you sort of see the work that they're doing, try to understand if this is something that interests you, whether it's aligned to whatever you want to do. And then probably over say 1 or 1.5 months, you take a call and then you maybe quit a few of them and then you narrow down to the ones that you are liking the most. Right? Also to address the second part of your question in terms of students who are just learning about consulting, right? Even that's just a very natural phase of growth. I don't think I even knew that any industry such as consulting existed before I came to SRCC. Uh, that's something that I can say with confidence. But that doesn't really limit the kind of goals that you can have because the college, if you are able to extract resources and value, it offers you a lot of opportunities to train yourself in that way which you need to be, right? So even if it's societies, competitions, and all of that, just trying your luck out is something which is very important because until you try, you won't really know what's working for you. You won't really know where you need to improve, and even the avenues of growth. Right? For example, if nothing else, societies will generally teach you a fair bit about communication, maybe right. They'll maybe teach you how to write a decent mail. Those are very simple and small things, but in the long run, they do add a lot of value to the kind of outcomes that you can achieve. So in that sense, as Jayani said, balance and prioritization are the two keywords.
I think we can totally relate to this. Ki we must prioritize, and like when we came in, we were like totally clueless, and there is this competition that you want to get in, you want to get selected. But yeah, we can really totally agree that it's a matter of prioritizing. So yeah, thank you for the answer. Moving further, like, do you really think ki curriculum knowledge plays an important role in cracking placements?
Sure, maybe I'll start that. I think yes, right, and that might come off as a surprise. There are two ways in which it can play a role, right? So the first would be wherein you are actually being directly asked questions in your interview, right? Probably, at least in my experience, since that has been limited generally to consulting companies. In that context, no, I have never seen them asking about academics. But there is another way, right? There's an indirect way as well. Now, even here, there are two elements to it. One, the curriculum knowledge, which is reflected through your academic performance. That is something that many companies do value a lot, right? Even when you're introducing us, that's something that you probably said first, because that's just something which generally society in Indian society we tend to value, and that's true even for these consulting companies and even other companies, I'm assuming. So having a good academic performance is something that generally helps your cause. And secondly, I can speak for economics because that's supposed to be doing. If nothing else, the idea of the models in economics will just teach you a good approach to think about things. Even if those models specifically are not really applicable uh, in practical causes, unless you're probably going deeper into a study of economics itself. But the kind of analytical approach it will teach you, that's something which is quite valuable. Right? Over to you, Jenny.
Yeah, definitely. I think, as Parth mentioned, both marks also are reflected, and when you are talking as well, right? The type of knowledge that you've gained in the 3 years of your experience, 3 years of your college experience, is again something that is reflected. So talking about having course curriculum asked in interviews, I was asked not during my McKinsey interviews, but during my internship placements. So I interviewed with DE Show, and we had a couple of proper technical rounds where, I was questioned on the various economic models, on the various economic phenomena that are there in the economy today. But more than that, I think what is important is that whatever course you're doing, you need to be very clear about the basics of the course, right? They're not going to go in very depth and ask you as much as your professors would ask, but definitely there's a basic understanding that is expected when you're a student of economics or a student of commerce, right? You can't go wrong with the basic phenomena of, say, what are anti-inflationary policies that a government can undertake. All of these basic concepts should be clear irrespective of what kind of company you're sitting for. Definitely the type of questions that will be asked will depend a lot on the company as well as the role that you're applying for, right? So if you're going for a finance centric role, then definitely you will be asked more questions with regards to your curriculum than if you're sitting for a consulting role. So I would suggest that do have a basic knowledge about your curriculum. Do not, disregard it. Having said that, focus a lot on your interview skills that are necessary for the particular company and the role. So for consulting, work on your consulting interview skills, work on your guesstimate skills, etc., rather than only focusing on your curriculum.
Just to add on there, see, consulting or placements is not the only thing that people go for, right? So a lot of people are also going to be maybe sitting for interviews for an MBA directly out of college. Now, in those contexts, often you are asked very specific questions on your course as well, especially since all of us are going to be freshers if you're applying directly out of SRCC. So because you don't really have any work experience for them to question you on, your academics is something that they definitely question you on. So if you're someone who's going down that route, or maybe if you're someone going down the government exam route, right? Even there, maybe your knowledge of, say, BCom or economics, whichever is your course, might be relevant.
Definitely.
I think we can really relate to this. It's about your bringing the library to the road at the end. So yeah, over to you, Mokshit.
Yes, I totally could relate with what the perspective they shared from their experience. Moving ahead with our next question, can lack of participation in societies due to academic commitments be compensated by internships? And how much weightage do companies assign to it?
Sure, I'll take it up. So definitely you can compensate for your lack of participation in societies. So basically what you need to understand is not every person's profile is the same, right? Some of you might have a great position in society, some of you might not. That does not mean that you are at a particular sort of disadvantage when it comes to societies. What's important, as even the consulting lingo goes, to have a certain kind of spike, right? So that for you can be anything. It need not be society and your PORs. It can be your internships. It can be something like research papers that you're writing, articles that you're writing, some great competitions that you've participated in. So it is not necessary for you to have a POR or a college society experience. Having said that, you need to develop some sort of niche for yourself. Whatever it is, you need to have something that differentiates you from the rest of the hundreds of candidates who are applying, right? So definitely you can compensate for your lack of college society experience. You can have a startup experience of your own, or whatever position that you can take up, whatever leadership role that you can show, right? I think that is more important than having a particular college society mentioned on your CV. Yeah, Parth.
Right. And just to add on to that, I think companies generally are accepting of that as well, right? Maybe some companies are hyper focused on college societies, and that's something which you can't avoid. But for a large majority of companies, which is where actually say 95% of the college is going to be placed, in that chunk, they will be fine with you having taken different routes. The idea is just that, for example, as Jayani said, right, they want to see leadership. That's why they look at society PORs. So if you have an alternate way of establishing that sort of leadership ability, that's something which is quite fun.
I think, yeah, we can totally agree to this. At the end, the motive of joining a society, it's you're developing a skill. So, yeah, I think there could be other routes to it. Proceeding ahead, like, what's your take on the online courses that are provided by, let's say, Coursera or Udemy? And, like, are they really worth it? And if yes, could you please list some must-have skills?
Well, personally, I don't think I've seen a lot of value being given to such courses. Partially because the idea is that they're open to all, right? So anyone can just do them, and because they're online, there is just it's just very easy for you to just complete them as well. So the idea is that these courses, because of their nature and also how people tend to consume them, uh, the fact that you have completed a course doesn't really imply that you have gotten the knowledge or the skills that that course offers. So because of that trust gap, I don't think there's a lot of value here. Of course, if you go on the side of say professional courses, right, which are administered through a particular body, CFA, FRM, all of these, they definitely have value because of the same reason that their trust factor is something which is present.
Yeah. I agree with what Parth has said, but I think one differentiating factor is why are you doing these courses, right? Is it only to add value to your CV, or is it to gain certain set of skills and knowledge that you want? So if it's the secondary reason, then definitely go ahead and do those courses, learn Excel, learn financial modeling, whatever skill you're looking to gain, right? And definitely do pursue these courses. They're a great source. You can learn, from world renowned professors in the best of the universities. So I think the kind of exposure that they provide you is great. I have done a couple of courses. I did not do a lot, but they did help me in gaining a lot of knowledge, which I applied when I sat for interviews, right? When I'm giving a finance interview, it helps me if I've done some course and I've studied about it, right? So it's not necessarily going to add weightage to your CV per se, because of the reasons Parth mentioned, that they can't be sure if you have the knowledge because it's open to all, right? But it will definitely add to your personal knowledge base that you can use to convert these companies that come on campus. So if you want to gain particular skills, then go ahead. To answer the second part of your question, there is no particular skill set that is necessary. It depends on the company and the profile that you're looking for. I would say for consulting, it's important to have, it's a generalist role, right? It's important to have knowledge about more or less uh, everything in general. But not a particular course required. You can do Excel, you can learn PowerPoint in depth, but these skills are not going to be tested directly by these companies. If you talk about finance, then yeah, definitely you can learn about risk, you can learn about the financial markets, you can learn about economics in detail, all of these courses. You can also take up courses on Python, on Tableau, and other technical skills that are necessary. You can take up those courses as well. So it's absolutely depending on what is your objective.
So what I could gather was that your intention should be clear behind these courses. If you want to add skill sets, definitely there will be a value addition in your knowledge base as well. So proceeding ahead with the next question. What do companies like McKinsey, Bain, and BC look for in a candidate?
Sure. So I think this is like the most obvious and the very difficult question to answer. There is nothing in particular that they look for, right? You would say that they look for an all-rounder performance. They look for, people with exceptional marks, people with outstanding extracurriculars. All of that is partially true. What you need is a certain, as I mentioned again, spike or a niche for yourself, right? You can be great at sports, that's also acceptable to them. You can be great at, something like dancing, that's also acceptable to them. Whatever you do, show that you're a passionate person, you're devoted, you're hardworking, you're intelligent, you are driven. These are the qualities that they look for, because you're going to be working very long hours. You're going to be working with, most high profile clients there are in the market, and all they need is for you to have the ability to learn what they're going to teach you, the ability to apply it, the ability to communicate all your thoughts clearly, and excel in whatever work you've been given, right? So, as I said, it's a generalist role. You do not need very in-depth knowledge about a particular industry, about some particular, field of business, but they do need you to have an overall uh, personality driven towards achieving greatness. It can be in any field that you choose if you're liking. It can be literally anything, but you need to set yourself apart in that particular field, achieve distinction in that, and show the interviewer how passionate you are about that, right? So if there's no set rule as to what they look for, it's upon you how you present your story, how you present your achievements to them.
Right. Just to add on, right, a few things. First, I think for these companies, especially because they're the first ones to come to campus, right? McKinsey, BCG, and the like. So for them, CV shortlisting is probably the most important stage. I would believe more than the interviews, right? Because at the CV stage, it is going to go down from say 500 applicants to 13, 15, 20. After that, it's just going to be say going down by 20, it's going to become 25%. And even that's difficult. For the first one is even lesser odds. So in that stage, the spike idea that Jayani mentioned, right? So you do need a spike. When they say a spike, what do they mean? It's just some instance where you have shown exceptional performance. Now, why do they value this, right? A lot of people might think that why aren't they really looking for a more balanced CV? Why do they value spikes? Now, the idea is that, again, on the lines of what Jenny said, these are companies for whom a very strong part of their value offering to clients is that they have exclusive talent. And for this, the idea of exclusive is something which becomes very important. And that's why a spike, right? For example, if your spike is that you're a trained judo player who's represented India or something, right? That's a very, very rare thing for you to do. So that convinces them that probably you are someone who has the ability to do exceptional stuff, right? In addition, that doesn't mean that just having a spike is sufficient. Not at all, right? They will clearly say this, that we want someone who is above average everywhere, but exceptional somewhere. So it's not that you can be at the base everywhere and just have one spike. You need to be pretty high everywhere and then still have a spike. That's just how they look at those profiles. So also because, again, the idea of going from 500 to 15, 20, it's just the numbers game which you have to play. Now, one small piece of homework which I give anyone who's seen this, just find the lists, say for example, from your previous, which is say Mann, Jayani's year. So just look at the shortlists that McKinsey, BCG, or whichever company that you're interested in came out with. And then just try to analyze or see for yourself, right? In 90% cases, it'll be pretty obvious why this particular person got shortlisted. Now, once you do that, I won't tell you the answer, but once you do that, you will think that, oh no, all of these things are already decided. Right? For example, in a lot of cases, you might think that they are getting shortlisted because of the society keywords, which might be true. I don't know. I have not been on that side. But there are a lot of people who also convert these companies and get these shortlists because of non-society reasons, right? Someone could have done exceptionally well at a competition, right? Maybe something with a reputed brand name attached. Maybe they had an internship which was exceptional, right? Maybe they had a very, very unusually exceptional academic record. So for all of these reasons, you can still convert these companies. The idea is just to find your niche, to find what it is that is feasible for you. And beyond that, things are out of your control. Just apply and hope.
Okay, so like what I could gather is you need to be master of all and jack of some. So that's, I think, we all should focus. Moving ahead with our next question, it's like, how should one handle the trade-off between a good package, a good brand name, and at the same time a good profile when faced with it?
Now, I think, see, there are three elements as you mentioned, right? The pay, the company, basically the company's brand name, and the profile. Now, I would believe that it makes sense for you to first look at the pay. In this, it shouldn't necessarily be the highest. What you should rather be looking at is setting a base for yourself which you are fine with. Right? So, for example, if you say that working in Mumbai, I am fine with anything above 8 lakhs. Now, that's your base. Now, beyond that, I would rather recommend that you not look at pay, because unless it's an exceptionally wide difference. But because at this stage, when we're just starting off our careers, maybe the experience and the learnings matter much more than the specific pay. Because you can, in the later stages, leverage those experiences and learnings to get a much better paying job. You don't really need that at the very start of your career, right? So, I mean, hypothetically, if McKinsey and BCG both came to SRCC and there was say BCG was offering a decent bit more, I would probably still have chosen to prioritize McKinsey, right? Because I think the kind of brand value that they would add, of course, BCG is equally prestigious, but I think in terms of the things that I want to do going ahead, McKinsey is a more relevant name for me. And in that sense, the kind of experiences that I will gain there will add much more to my story. So in that sense, that's how you prioritize. Now, in terms of profiles and the company, right? When you look at both of these together, when you club them, they in total they tell you basically about the experience and the learnings that you will have. Now, even in this, understand that maybe if the profile is lacking, right? So, for example, if it's a profile not exactly where you want to be, in that case, probably the brand value of the company can compensate for that. Why? Because often a brand value allows you to jump pretty easily after, say, 1 or 1.5 years of working at that placement company. So, if that's the case, go ahead with it, take that risk. On the other hand, if the company doesn't have a really strong name, but it does have an extremely interesting profile where you will get to do a lot of hands-on stuff, then you can choose that route as well. In that case, it becomes a bit more tricky, but definitely possible for you to ensure that you are able to showcase the value of your idea, right? So if I'm working at maybe a JPMC, right, a JP Morgan Chase, irrespective of the work that I've done, people will probably care more about that name. Now, if it's on the flip side, I will need to just work slightly more for people to understand that the work I've done is valuable. But if you're able to make them understand that, you're equally well positioned. Jenny?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with what Parth has mentioned. We are at a stage in our career where the most important aspect is to gain as much experience as we want, right? As he mentioned, pay should be on a secondary level. Decide a base for yourself, and then just think about the brand name that you're going to get, the kind of profile that you're going to get. Now I know that it sounds very good on paper that this is what I'm going to do, but when it comes down to practically applying it, because we are following the placement process of a college, right? We're talking about college placement. What happens is you have a set order in which companies come, and over there it's extremely, because we only get to sit for one A1 we only get to get selected in one A1 company, and once you are placed over there, you can't sit for any other, right? It becomes extremely important to select where are you going to apply, which company do you want to get selected in. But things are not always so easy. It's not decided that if you sit for a company you're going to get shortlisted, right? As Parth mentioned, the odds are so less. So I would suggest that sit for in the beginning, at least sit for most of the companies that come on campus. Do not just miss out on a company if you do not maybe like the profile a lot, or if you do not think that the pay is exceptionally good. For say if you are happy with 90% of the things, I would suggest that sit for those companies, sit for those profiles, at least take the experience of the interview. Do not sit for all companies, definitely. But if you're happy with 90% of the things, then go ahead and at least try out. Because as Parth mentioned, we are at a very starting stage of your career. There is ample opportunity to shift ahead, to move to, some other company immediately, say after 1.5, 2 years as well. Even before that, you can shift. But it's important that you secure the best possible opportunity at this point of time. So do not let go of opportunities simply because you're not happy with one of the factors that the company is offering. That's all. Otherwise, I think Parth has mentioned everything. But when it comes down to actually sitting for placement process, I know this becomes extremely important. And should I, leave out some company that is coming, because it's a very big trade-off. There's a very high risk that you are taking up. So yeah, think about these factors when you actually come down to applying for companies.
Okay, so basically what I could gather is that once you have set your baseline, your motive should be to look for experience, and at the same time how that brand can attach value to where you want to go ahead in life and in terms of the learnings it offers. And at the same time, we, as Jayani also mentioned, we need to have a very comprehensive understanding of the placement process so that we are able to capitalize the opportunities that are presented by the college. So moving ahead with our next question, how should one handle the question about one's weaknesses?
So I think when it comes to your weaknesses, it's important to be truthful, definitely, but you also have to ensure that whatever skill they require the most, right? Say the company requires you to have a particular kind of personality. Say they need you to be very high on confidence, they need you to be a good communicator. Do not mention the very fact, do not mention this very same traits as your weakness. You need to play smart over there. What they're looking for the most shouldn't be your weakness, because then definitely they do not want to hire you. So you should be truthful. Do not, use your strengths as weakness. Do not say that, I'm a perfectionist and that does not let me that makes me work very hard and then I can't balance your work and life. Do not say all of that, right? They know, they have sat on the other end as well. They know that you are just trying to play your strengths as weaknesses that nobody likes. Genuinely mention your weaknesses. Say that I have certain time management problems, I have this issue, I am working on this. So whenever you're doing that, mention the problem. It shouldn't be a very big one, it shouldn't be a deal breaker. Then say, how have you been working on changing that? What are the steps that you've taken? And what is the result that you've achieved having taken those steps, right? So you mention your weakness, you say what you're doing in order to overcome that, and what are the results that you've achieved. Also, very important, again, repeating, do not mention the very things that they're looking for your candidate as your weakness, and do not use your strengths as weakness. That's it. Parth, would you like to add on?
I think Jayani's covered almost everything here. And I think just to probably reiterate or re-emphasize some of those things, right? This question, it's much more important for you to think about the do nots than the do's, right? As Jayani said. So the two do nots are, don't try to faff in terms of passing off strengths as weaknesses. Now, why they don't like that is because they know you're not perfect, right? They know we're just college students. So even if you think at the college stage you have no weakness and that compels you to pass off a strength as a weakness, that just speaks very clearly, that very clearly indicates that probably you're someone who thinks too much of themselves. And that's something which no one likes. So that's a problem. Secondly, again, as Jenny said, it shouldn't be something which is a deal breaker, right? If it's a finance company in which your entire job is going to be working with big numbers and you're saying my weakness is that I don't like numbers. The point is that you're probably not a right fit for that role. There's nothing personal here, right? There's nothing personal in the entire placement process. They're just trying to find the people who do best at their company because that's just what they want. So, but if you're giving something like that as a weakness, maybe don't apply to that company in the first place. If you're able to realize that well in advance, maybe that should be one of those things that sort of breaks the deal from your end, not their end, because you think this is not the work that I will enjoy, right? If you're someone who doesn't like numbers, that job is not something you'll enjoy at all, right? So maybe just don't apply in the first place. So I think in that sense, it's just about you making the sort of framework for you to understand whether you're a good fit for that company or not, and whether that company is a good fit for you or not. That's basically all what the interview process is in any case.
Okay, so basically what I could gather is the company is trying to assess you are self-aware. So you need to be true to yourself and to them. So yeah, I guess it was a tricky question and a good answer to it. Moving ahead, last but not the least, what's your feeling right now, knowing that you're about to enter like one of the best consulting firms in the world?
I mean, I don't know what I should say. Obviously, it feels great, but I think two other things to it is that I think at this stage it still feels a bit unreal, right? In terms of wow, did we actually do this? Because when you come to college, especially at least in our case or my case, when you come to SRCC, probably the first company that you hear about in the placement context is McKinsey, right? So even since that very stage, it's just the company which is most talked about. That doesn't mean it's the best, but it definitely is the most spoken of. And because of that, there's just a lot of conversation around it. So in that context, especially in SRCC, being placed at McKinsey is something which just feels quite unreal. And secondly, honestly, more than anything else, we are sad about our college lives ending. So I think that's also a predominant feeling. Jayani?
Yeah, I think I am at a stage in my life where the second thing that Parth mentioned is something that I'm feeling more right now. It's just we got hardly 1 year of offline college. So I think that is an overpowering feeling right now. But yeah, definitely really elated. Looking forward to a whole new chapter in our lives. And yeah, I mean, as Parth mentioned, it's really surreal that we get to be a part of such a great company with exceptional work that they've done in so many years. So definitely looking forward to it, looking forward to learning as much as I can from the role and my peers as well. So yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity to talk about our experiences about placement as well as college life in general. So great initiative. I hope that we've been able to help at least a couple of people as well through this video. So yeah, thank you so much for this.
Yeah, also, I'm sure if any one of you who's listening to this, if you have any other questions, anything at all, feel free to reach out to both Jayani and I through whichever platform you like. We'll definitely try our best to get back to you and to be of any help that we can. And again, thank you to Wings of Fire for having us.
Thank you so much for those insightful answers by sharing your nuances with us. You have definitely helped us a lot, and thank you on my part as well for being so approachable. I got a lot of insights into cracking placements, and I'm sure the viewers would have taken countless takeaways from today's session. We thank both of you for sparing your time once again and for sharing your priceless guidance. We are indeed humbled and elated to have hosted you. On behalf of Wings of Fire, I express profound gratitude to both of you. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much.